That's the Nathan Bowles Trio from their new album, Are Possible. We caught up with Nathan, Casey, and Rex, who are all in Durham, North Carolina. And we're surprised to learn that Nathan has been influenced by a New Zealand trio called the Dead Sea.
I remember finding those records at my college radio station in like 2002 or so, and just, I don't know, just kind of getting the top of my brain sawed off by that stuff. And I mean, like some people I started playing music with around then were already like fans of them too. So then, I just like the freedom in that music, but I like how it made nods to kind of like rock power trio, but it
Right.
was like not. I don't know. It just I'm still really attracted by that idea, I guess. Like making it's like you have all like a loose framework of this kind of tradition, and then but then it's kind of blown up. I
Right.
like that.
All right. So is this a iteration of a rock power trio, the Nathan Bowles
That's
trio?
interesting. It's funny because someone asked us the other night, like what, and we don't actually get, I don't get this in, I don't know, maybe y'all get this question, but I don't get the question that often of like, well, what genre, you'd think I would get it more actually, but like what genre would you describe this music in? And it
Right.
occurred to me that I actually didn't, um, that I, it like occurred to me that I wasn't fully comfortable calling it like a rock
Right.
band.
Yeah.
And then I
Well,
was like, well, why is that? I was asking myself why that was, and I didn't come up with an answer immediately,
well, it's,
but
it's true though. The word genre is the problem, I think, because people
yeah.
don't like to be locked into anything. So my version of that same question is, how do you describe your music to other people? Which is kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
but somewhat opener, more open and a little looser, because you don't want to say, oh, I'm a death metal band, I'm a shoegaze band. I mean, it just suddenly tells everybody what they think, everything they know
Yeah.
about you all of a sudden.
Yeah. I think we try and just, I think maybe all three of us do this. I don't know, y'all can chime in, but like try and describe it by like elements of you like go to elements of the music instead of like a genre label. So we'll be like, well, it does this or it does this. So it's
Right.
like it's cyclical, it's like groove based.
Right.
There's acoustic, it's like a lot of acoustic instruments being amplified or just being played. I don't know. So you like that way you're not like, well, it's kind of jazzy or it's like or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Sometimes it is, yes. So
Yeah.
people are just joining us. Let's introduce Rex and Casey here. So Rex is the drum person in the band. How you doing, Rex? Whereabouts are you today?
In Durham with everybody. We're
Oh, you're
from
all in
like,
Durham, and then Casey.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Durham, just a couple blocks from Nathan.
All
So,
right, you're
yeah.
playing the double bass mostly,
Yeah.
but again, do you guys play other things other than those three instruments that you kind of are known for, or is that not true?
Yeah, I mean to different degrees with each of the three of us. I mean, I feel like I think I would describe myself as like a percussionist.
Right,
Sometimes I like because sometimes it's a little feels like an out of body experience to think that people who encounter my music think of me as like a banjo player, which is
right.
true. I play the banjo and I focus on the banjo a lot, but I sometimes I have a weird disconnect remembering that that's the case or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I apply like drumness to everything I do, but I'll let the other guys describe their relationship with other instruments, you know.
Please go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I played a little bit of guitar, I think, on this record, but
Uh-huh.
I grew up playing guitar, but I don't consider myself a guitarist. I would say I noodle around on a lot of instruments, but really play bass is my focus.
All right. And Rex?
Yeah, drums for me. I
That's easy.
I love playing percussion on sessions, like recording sessions and thinking of ways to like reinforce a rhythm in a recorded setting to make it have more feeling to it, like it might be able to have live. But I'm pretty sure Nathan and I both played percussion on a bunch of the tracks of the record.
Right. Okay. So the three of you played together on the previous record that Nathan put out called Plainly Mistaken about 6 years ago. So the backstory is, something happened, you guys gelled, you decided to make a record as a trio, but it took a long time to get here. So what was that journey like for you guys?
I mean, it felt pretty organic coming off the back of that, yeah, of Plainly Mistaken, which I would, yeah, like most of that record, or maybe a little more than half, is trio stuff. And the trio was still pretty fresh when we made the record. When we made that record, we hadn't played live that much. We were still sort of figuring out what everyone's contribution, what like the specific strengths of I think everyone's musicianship could be. Not that that's not to undersell that music. I mean, I think I love that record, and I think actually like the really the identifiable roots of what we do on Are Possible is there, like on a track like The Road Reversed or something
Right?
specifically. But I generally those were tunes apart from The Road Reversed, which I feel like we kind of composed maybe more collaboratively. It just felt like more like I was bringing Rex and Casey this idea of what the trio could be, and we were starting to build it. And then that record's kind of a snapshot of that period. And then because of obvious world events, like stuff was just slow, So like we took a bunch of time off. Um, the record almost got made right before COVID got pretty intense, but the timing just didn't work out that way. So then, we took a year off, came back, revisited the material. At that point, we had played live a bunch more. We had our compositional like idiosyncrasies, I think, were more like locking in with each other. We were writing more collaboratively.
Right.
And it was cool that actually the recording got delayed, because I think then by the time we made it, it felt more um we were just winging it a lot less.
Right. Okay,
In the
that makes
recording
sense.
than I think we would have if we had made it. I
Right.
mean, you can never know, but I think we would have been. And I like making records winging it. In fact, I love making records that way. But I don't think that's particularly the strength of this band, at least the way that it's evolved.
And it sounds to me like that it's rather than it's a banjo with a rhythm section behind it, that it's a true trio band thing, in that all the instruments, all the bits and pieces kind of have equal say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think we tried to mix the record in that way too.
Uh-huh. And you guys, Rex or Casey, you have anything to add to that bit before we move on?
What's springing to mind to me thinking about Plainly Mistaken is like, I feel like we did have a good bit of time where we were touring on that
Yep.
album as well. And I think that another way that we kind of like honed in on some of that is like, I think in that period of time we even like brought back, like I remember listening to Nathan's older records and finding tunes that I thought would work well for the trio. So I
Right.
feel like touring on Plainly Mistaken, we were even playing more like trio specific arrangement of older tunes of Nathan's as well. So yeah, but I mean that's just another thing pointing to like sort of the organic nature of it, is like me digging into the catalog, or Casey and I, all of us digging into what was there, and just trying to figure out where everything fit.
All righty. And Casey.
Yeah, I would say I think we developed sort of a level of trust with each other over the course of that time, and I feel like maybe the delay helped that more, but it's like I feel like the way the music's constructed, we really have to trust each other to like do our parts or whatever, and I think that like sort of started to come about while we were writing the songs, maybe like everybody's input like felt really important and helpful towards getting towards what you hear on the record.
All righty. Yeah. Now, overnight, I got sent a bunch of stuff about the record, including the artwork, which I hadn't seen before, and it looks kind of striking and interesting. So I'm wondering, just to get away from the music a little bit, where that came from, the cover art.
So Bill Nace, who is a musician and visual artist, I I've always been struck by his not just his music, but I love his visual sense and the artwork he does for other people's records and the artwork he does for some of his own stuff. I don't remember why I thought he would be a good fit. I don't know, like it's hard that kind of stuff, like why you think of certain people when you're thinking that's just like a mystery. I don't know. But we talked for a while about sort of vague ideas, and I sent him a bunch of photos I had taken, and he came up with the sort of collage on the front and then the painting on the back. And there was very little input from me. I mean, I gave him some generative material, but I didn't give him too much direction. I just sort of trusted him. I put a lot of trust in him that what he would deliver would be something I liked and something we all three could be happy with. And I was like, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have a good sense of Bill's like aesthetic and his approach. It's very conscious and very thoughtful and very open. And yeah, I was really happy with it.
All righty. And I see you released a video for the title track for Our Air. What caused you to pick that one to kind of highlight? Because you released 2 tracks before the release day, but that one kind of stands out.
Why did we pick that track to make a video? Well, I mean, our Air is kind of unusual in that it's the only other track with another musician on it. So Skylar Gudaz playing flute. That was a tune that is kind of the evolving of that as it was getting written from like a riff to something more than a riff, and then Casey coming up with this bass melody. And we had it kind of develop, but I always heard like a melody line, not in a strict way. Like I didn't have like a melody picked out, but I could just hear some sort of languorous kind of melody over top of it. And Skylar's a friend and musician, and we just asked her to come in one day and try some stuff on the track, and it really we just thought it really worked. And then in terms of the video, that was one. The track is maybe largely because of the flute is evocative imagistically or something. And so my friend Evan Morgan from Magic Tuber String Band is someone I've been wanting to collaborate with for a while on film stuff, because he shoots a lot on film and likes to experiment with that. And I asked him, that was another kind of example where I didn't give him much direction. I sort of described an idea of how the music felt to me and what images I felt could potentially accompany it, and he came up with that fairly quickly. Went out in his canoe and took a bunch of film and edited it together. So yeah, it was again really. I feel like so many of the processes around the album tend to be a combination of sort of organic associativeness and asking people that we trust to collaborate.
Cool.
And
all right. Now, one track
that I think.
One track that I wanted to discuss that hasn't been released yet is "Give Me My Shit." It's like 8.5 minutes long, and it's pretty cool. I think it's. I don't know how you think of it in terms of the other tracks, but it seems to be kind of the centerpiece. And although something about the bass, especially at about 5 minutes in, kind of grabs a riff and runs with it. So, what can you tell me about how that came together?
song started with Rex had that beat, that rhythm that's throughout the song, and that was like the jumping off point, like, and kind of the only thing for a while. And we were just sort of, Nathan and I were like experimenting with different tunings, different keys to figure out like what harmonic sensibility like felt good with that rhythm. But yeah, that jumping off point, I feel like there was, I think the other two guys were kind of like ramping up the energy there, and I was like trying to find a way to like bridge from the first part into that like heavier part. And that's sort of like there's like a walking cyclical thing that like kind of leads into a part that almost feels like a bass feature, like when it comes out of that and tightens back up. But I feel like that was just sort of a riff that we had that was really short in the beginning, and we sent it to our friend Jason, and he told us that we should expand on that part of the song.
Oh, I totally forgot that. I
Yeah,
totally
nice.
forgot that element of it. Oh, yeah. We had some input. Yeah, we got some outside input. That's interesting. Yeah.
So are there multiple takes of it, or long bits that have been cut and pasted, or would we find
No,
outtakes and things like that?
I think it's just one take. We did like a demo version of it before, probably like 4 or 5 months before we finished recording, or before we recorded the version you hear.
Right.
And we sent that demo to some friends for feedback.
All right. Rex, anything you want to add to it? Because you kind of kicked it off with the rhythm, right? That track?
Yeah. I mean, just at the, I mean, yeah, I feel like the point where it takes off is the point where, yeah, it takes on a new form, and the part leading up to that is like, I mean, mostly for Casey and I, just two rhythms that I wrote with the intent for them to overlay. But no, I mean, that's about it. I came up with them on a bucket, I guess would be the only
On a bucket.
thing worth, yeah, on a bucket.
All right.
Yeah, the title is also something that Rex had been like mulling over based on something we overheard someone say.
Right.
Sometimes that's just how these things work out, like.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Now, you guys have done a series of shows recently. That I think the most recent one was in Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm wondering if those shows and that little bit of a tour was much different from when you were playing together as a trio before all this became kind of official.
I mean, it felt we've done shows, I guess mostly semi-local ones of this material, of like possible kind of material, and some of that stuff we've been playing live. Like some of those, the song "Dappled" is a little older. I feel like that's maybe been played for a while at shows. I guess, but yeah, I guess you could say this run was the first like out of town run,
Right.
solely most really focused on this material. It did feel good. I think for me, I'm actually curious what y'all think. I think for me, it sort of hammered home how comfortable is not the word, but like it felt good to be able to like lean on the solidity of the tunes like compositionally. Like it felt like it kind of goes back to what Casey was saying about trust. You could kind of trust that like the sort of rhythmic and harmonic elements were there for you to lean on, and you've got some freedom melodically to do a little bit of what you want. But the songs just felt pretty tightly. They felt tight without being too tight, and it felt, yeah, I felt by the time we finished the run, like the show in Baltimore the other night, like, yeah, everything's firing on all pistons. It's a fun set of songs to play. I mean, it's like there's variety, there's some instrumental variety, some tempo variety and stuff, and
right.
It doesn't feel like, I like playing the older stuff too, but there wasn't any times during the set where I was like, man, I wish we weren't focusing on all the new material. Like I wasn't sick of the new material or anything.
Oh, that's good. That's always a plus.
Yeah.
And Casey, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I feel like yeah, everything. I I guess one thing I would add is like we were starting to maybe explore some newer stuff
Oh,
too,
good.
but it's not like compositionally formed, but we have like some space in the set to do some new things, and that's exciting to me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And Rex?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that like especially the routing and the size of the shows on that trip felt pretty similar to some of the touring we did on Plainly Mistaken, but I feel like there's a continuity to the material that's that I find really nice. Like it doesn't feel as much like switching gears into drastically different feels or something like that at all. Yeah,
Right.
there's like a smooth continuity that to it that feels good.
So it sounds like Durham's kind of happening these days musically. There's a good scene there, is there?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
There's a
I mean,
pocket-
I would say the Triangle in general, has a great scene. I feel like I can bounce over to Chapel Hill, Carborough area and see. I was just playing there last night with some friends and
Right.
see a bunch of friends there. And there's always like ideas for collaborations or for, yeah, just a lot of people play music here and a lot of people are creatively engaged and, um, yeah, for sure. It feels good in that way.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, for spending time with me. I appreciate it. Good luck with the record. And yeah, we'll
course.
hope to see you soon down here if it ever happens. Have a great evening.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for taking the time.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. All righty.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.